Good afternoon, everybody. Chris Frew here today with a special guest, Jim Pannucci from Activation Capital for another episode of What's the Buzz? Jim, welcome.
Hi, Chris.
I'm excited for today's conversation, Jim. We're going to talk about driving regional activation in Richmond and everything you're doing at Activation Capital, which seems to be a lot from what you and I have talked about.
It's exciting times here. There's a lot going on. It's a great city and a great sort of ecosystem development activity to be involved in, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack that. I have a feeling like we could have made this an hour or plus conversation, but we're going to do our best. I promise everybody to keep it in our 30-minute target window. For everybody joining, just a little housekeeping. What's the Buzz is our regional live interview series where we talk to community builders, people who are building innovation ecosystems, our life sciences, biotech, BioHealth innovation ecosystems. So we felt like it was important to do this a couple times a month so that we could help share what people are doing to grow companies, grow jobs, grow regional economies. It's such an important job that sometimes goes underlooked at how much goes into it. So we're celebrating that here at BioBuzz, and this series is sponsored by CRB. So while we're talking about community builders here today, I think CRB is really the community builder. They're literally building the labs and the manufacturing facilities that our researchers and our workers are working into, design and develop new therapeutics and produce new vaccines or APIs. I know they do a lot of work down in the Richmond area with some of the big companies down there. But they've been a great partner to us, and we couldn't ask for a better partner. Again, one from physical builder to what we're talking to today, someone like Jim, who is an ecosystem builder. So thank you to CRB.
Yep.
So yeah, Jim, let's jump in. So you are VP of Entrepreneurship at Activation Capital. You came into Richmond last year. You and I have known each other a long time, so I'm sure we can unpack a lot of that. But you joined last year down at Activation Capital. Tell us a little bit about, just give us a little bit of the Jim Pannucci story, and then I'd love for you to unpack for us, like, what is Activation Capital?
Sure. So my background is in science, microbiology. I've worked in vaccine development for infectious diseases, drug development for viruses. Got to do a little bit of cancer research, in the drug discovery phase. I've had the great privilege to work at 2 U.S. national laboratories and a couple of different large corporations, all working around science, technology development. It's been a great career. Spent most of it sort of in the Maryland neighborhood of where we first met, but it relocated last year to Richmond, Virginia, to help grow the pharma, life sciences, biotech startup footprint down here. It's been a great experience. And I work for Activation Capital, which is also the Virginia Biotech Research Park Authority. So we are part state authority, part nonprofit. Historically, the organization has worked to build the biotech park, here around the VCU Health Campus. And in more recent years, we've pivoted the mission to be more on the programming side to help biotech, life science, pharmaceutical, med device companies get launched, and then provide the programming they need in order to survive and thrive, and to have a lot of the operational, and business side risks sort of minimized, so those companies and those founders become more investable, and then be a exciting and successful part of the Richmond business ecosystem.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're building on kind of like a foundation that Activation Capital had, built in real estate, so Activation Capital has been a foundational element to the Richmond ecosystem all along. What you've brought over the past year, or what has happened with the company, with or with the organization, is the evolution to purposeful programming and strategic programming.
Correct. I mean, I think the organization over the last 30 years has been here for the city of Richmond to help it achieve its economic goals, right? So the park project was amazing, but the need now is on the programming side, and to help foster an environment where startups can launch, with intentionality, and launch with a solid chance of duration, right? Which we know is always tricky in the startup world, and ideally to be able to attract investment capital to the region, and to the companies in the region, with our ultimate goal of more companies, more jobs, and more capital to this area. I mean, Richmond, historically was a very productive city, in business markets that sort of have sunsetted, but I would say the last decade or more has really reinvented itself as a great place to be. It's a completely groovy city to live in, and I'm happy to be part of the effort to make it a biotech city as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For those who want to get to know Richmond a little bit, can you give us a little high level tour of like the ecosystem map of Richmond? Like, what are some of the assets, and what do you moved down there, right? About a year plus ago or so. So I'm sure, coming in, you got to experience a lot of things and learn a lot of things. So tell us a little bit about like what is in the Richmond ecosystem, and that you're building on now, and like what have you been.
Yeah, and this is what makes it really exciting, and it's really economically diverse, right? So, our part where we live in professionally, we're on the VCU health campus, right? And in addition to, the VCU Health, School of Medicine, there's the Massey Cancer Center, there's the Sanyal Liver Institute, right? There's the McGuire, I don't know its exact name, but the McGuire Veterans Health, Research Center, all doing amazing work. There's a VA hospital down the road in the Chesterfield area, and there's the main campus of VCU, but also there's a Federal Reserve Bank here, right? And if you look at the Richmond skyline, there's some notable big, 40-story, 50-story brand name banking that goes on here, right? CoStar, big regional player building a brand new building. CarMax is a big player. Haleon Corporation, which is an amalgam of over-the-counter spin-outs from other large pharma companies. That's here. Altria is a historical player here, now working very much in the biosciences. CarMax has a big data center here. Hamilton Beach has got their medical or health-related business line located in Richmond. So there's a lot of really interesting things that are going on here, both in science and more, traditional business economy. It's an exciting place. And if you drive up and down the streets, a lot of the historic tobacco industry buildings have been converted into, exciting loft condos and apartments, right? And other parts of the emerging skyline are new apartments and condos and new housing developments. So Richmond's really coming on.
That's great. And so is the Petersburg portion, is that part of Richmond, or is that
totally.
Kind of like a sub?
Yeah, I mean, the next city down the road on 95, and that's really the heart of where the advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing activity takes place. So great organizations like Flow and Civica, and so this is public now, recently announced that Novo Nordisk took over a location down there, and it's going to be a major employer and manufacturer in the region. So, I would say as a business enterprise, Richmond, Petersburg, and the surrounding Henrico, Chesterfield counties, there's a lot of exciting things in this area. A lot of opportunity to start businesses here, and a lot of opportunity to locate here. If you're in another city looking for an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I think one of the things that I'm excited in, I think a lot of our audience probably already knows this, but Jim, you won our Community Builder of the Year award this past year. So congratulations to that.
Thank you.
We had over. What's that?
It's exciting. It was.
It's cool. So it's a community, community choice award. So we keep everything very open at BioBuzz. We're all about community, and we had over 5,000 votes. So
wow, that's a lot.
So, yeah, it's a lot of people that vote for this, and I was really excited that you won, and I think it speaks a lot to to what you are doing down there. I mean, building community is a huge part of what you are doing. So I just wanted to recognize that and congratulate you on the recognition. And obviously, it's something that's showing beyond Richmond, because our audience spans, we have a national audience. Actually, our second largest audience is California, believe it or not.
Oh, well.
But a lot of the votes were Mid-Atlantic, Philadelphia, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia. So what you're doing is resonating outside of Richmond. So congratulations to that, and all you do. I know it's hard work.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing? I know there was a Go Virginia grant that launched that you're building upon and growing on. You've got a pre-accelerator and accelerator. Can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that you're doing now to be purposeful about building this Richmond community, building on the kind of foundation you described?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And maybe I'll start from the end and work backwards, because it probably makes more sense that way. I mean, Ideally, what we want to see happen here, and some key metrics that we're working towards, is jobs created, right, and investment capital attracted to the region, right. So in the biotech space, how do you get there? Certainly you need a portfolio of companies, right, to have jobs and for capital to be interested in. But it's difficult just to show up in front of an investor and hope that you're the right thing. So to really de-risk that type of event, a lot of regions, and we're certainly part of it, will run a biotech accelerator, right, which is a 2 to 4 months depending program that really works with founders and their of course is their pitch, but it's really more of a fast-paced maturation activity. So founders understand what their value proposition is to investors, to the market. Do they have a real competitive position in the market? Are they investable from a personality perspective, from a business plan perspective? Is their technology likely to be approved by the FDA? Is it likely to be reimbursed by health insurance companies? So all of that they're thinking about, throughout the development of their company, but that really gets sharpened and fine-tuned during an accelerator activity, right? If we want to see 6 to 8 companies a year entering our accelerator. It's called Frontier BioHealth. In order to ensure that happens, right? We're taking on a strategy, very simple, and I refer to it as no hoping and waiting, right? So we don't want to hope that we have 6 to 8 companies a year that are ready for the accelerator out of the Richmond region. And we don't want to wait for them to arrive. So we are working closely with Virginia Commonwealth University's Tech Transfer Group and other technology sources around the region to really understand what the technology portfolio looks like, right? What of it is ripe for commercialization in the near term? What of it needs a little bit more work in order to get, ideally commercializable? And then we are seeking to align those technologies and the technical founders that may be at one of the area universities with business savvy entrepreneurs who know the startup business, who know how to engage investors, who know how to plan for business operations, and hopefully that matchmaking results in productive companies. So we've got an early stage program called Pioneer Connect that connects the technology and business pioneers together. There's some support there and some incentivization there so that the companies join and form here in Richmond. And then right away, they'll get loaded into our Start the Journey pre-accelerator, which is a 3-month high-touch, early stage, how to be a CEO, how to be a biotech company training program with a year or so of milestones where we assist with the project management on that to make sure that new companies and new founders don't get lost along that way. And if they need help, additional help and support, throughout that process that they're ready. And then ideally, or at least the plan is, at the end of that phase of start to journey, we'll have a cohort of companies ready for the Frontier BioHealth Accelerator, right? And if we can make that process reproducible and reliable, it'll be a machine of starting and caring for companies in the Richmond area that we think will work for years to come. And added to that, also this year, we'll be launching an entrepreneur bootcamp, which is a shorter course activity. If for faculty or other interested people in the area, if you think you might want to engage in the startup life, right? This will be what do you think about this major decision, and give that person some perspective and tools on what to expect. So I think all those elements combined, right? The technology pipeline, entrepreneur pipeline, technical founders, and more business experienced entrepreneurs coming together to make companies, serving as a pipeline for our pre-accelerator, which serves as pipeline for accelerator. And then along the way, we'll be doing things like holding like an investor guidance panel where we bring investors into our place here in Richmond and let them provide some constructive feedback to companies, right? To help position those companies so they are, speaking the words and performing the actions that investors want to see when they're ready to pitch. Will make those, investments more likely to succeed than not. So we're really planning one giant continuum of activities to achieve those metrics of jobs and capital down the road.
I love how you started with the end in mind, right? Like you have a clear vision for, for what the goal is, the North Star, right? So if you start with the North Star, probably advice you give entrepreneurs too, right? Know where you want to, go and work backwards. Well, Jim, it sounds like this is very like a very architected process too. This isn't just we want to do an accelerator, we're doing an accelerator. So you all have thought through this pretty thoroughly, it seems like.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got a great team at Activation Capital, and we do spend a lot of time planning and thinking about this, mapping it out. We've talked to investors about this. We've talked to other regional ecosystem developers about this. We've talked to startup companies about what we're doing. We've gotten feedback on what people want, what they think they need, and it really mapping out, a very intentional process. Again, we don't want to hope, we don't want to wait that it works. So if there's any part along that continuum that we can very intentionally adjust, we're interested in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're explaining, Jim, is you did your customer discovery, and and you're so again you're following the same the same steps that a startup would, right? You understand your market. You probably have you probably know what your market is. Like what's this going to create? How many companies is this going to create? What many jobs is it going to create? I'm sure you probably thought about that as well, right? So you're building you're doing the same things that you probably advise a company to do.
Sure, right. Because and that's not by accident, right? Like we're very much treating the business of promoting this ecosystem as if it were a business itself, right? And making sure we've got metrics, making sure we've got plans, that there's no gaps in what we're doing. And Chris, ultimately, we're trying to provide a really strong answer to the question of why Richmond for my startup, right? And there's great things here, right? There's a major university, like I said, there's a handful of major health systems here. There's other research centers, that there's great opportunity for collaboration, and we're filling in what we identified years ago as a gap in this programming aspect, right? And we're making sure that in filling up that gap, we're not leaving other gaps, right? And you're completely aware of this, state by state, right? Attracting companies and keeping companies in your region is a very competitive business, right? And we want to be able to do our part to start and keep companies in Richmond, and then start and keep companies in Virginia, right? That's what we're here for, and not lose them to other states. And if we're doing a great job, to be able to make the pitch to companies in other states that there may be a home here that's better, in Virginia and Richmond than you're experiencing now. And in order to do that, right, you need a very sound business case for why that's true. And by putting together that spectrum of programming, I think we are well on our way to getting there.
Yeah, what I love about this, Jim. I can relate to this in a couple ways. When we talk a lot of the same language, which I love. So this is like why I'm like just shaking my head. When I talk to economic development, I say you have to look at you have to look at a company coming to your state the same way a company looks at an investor. Like this company is deciding to invest in moving to Richmond, right? That's an investment, right? You got to look at it the same way, right?
Right.
So they're looking at risk. They're looking at the strength of your team, the strength of the corporations, the strength of the ecosystem. So it's a similar evaluation process that startups have to evaluate and think about, and investors have to think about for startups.
Sure, totally.
Because
And we think, like, in all the actions that we do, we are constantly asking ourselves, is this creating value for our network of companies that are here, right? In our sphere of influence. Are we doing something that's going to provide them value? Whether it's an event or exposure to investors or the programming that we're providing. Is it the best programming? Is it really getting to what they need? Because we want to build trust among the startup biotech companies, life science companies in our area, and make sure that they see us as valuable and seek the programming that we have to offer.
Yeah. Jim, so I love the Pioneer Connect program that you talked about. How important is it that industry is part of this? Like you mentioned some big name companies that are down there and that are involved in some. How important is it that they're at the table in some capacity, and what capacity should they be at the table with you?
Sure. Well, I think, Chris, if you look across the nation, right, there's a lot of success stories, a lot of models, right? I mean, you and I are both around, when the BioCapital Forum started, right? And that was largely motivated by, MedImmune and AstraZeneca at the time. And that was a great community partnership. I think we're on our way to that here. And we've got some big companies here. We have relationships with them all that are continuing to grow. And I think as we in Activation Capital do an increasingly better job at defining, what's the package that we're offering, what's the package that we're delivering, the value that we're creating. I think it's going to increasingly also attract the large corporate partners to be part of it, right? I mean, we've got relationships with them around events. They were part of our cohort, our Frontier BioHealth cohort. Supporting pitch activities and coming to the events. It was great. But more is always better. And we're not intending to be satisfied. But if we can continue growing the region and continue developing those relationships, I think great things are possible around sponsored innovation, workforce development, helping launch new research institutes would be a great thing, right? Because in that thinking of pipeline, we've got one major R1 university in town, and a couple of associated large centers, or institutes that sort of orbit VCU. But if you add, another, sort of independent for-profit institute to your city, that's just more tech-based, that results in more intellectual property, results in more opportunities for startups, right? And if you go to places like, San Francisco or San Diego or Boston and sort of look back through time, right, at the history of those, it started with one, or two large universities or more, and then like, a genome research institute moves in, and then another, cancer research institute moves in, and, then you want to, what happens is then you get some contract research and manufacturing organizations move into your city because they want to be near where their customer base is. And then, the crowning gem and all that is, then a major pharma company wants to have a research center. in your area, because there's so much other things happening, right? And we may have a way to go, for a lot of that, but we're building that foundation sort of every day to make Richmond, its own hub for the type of work we do.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, just staying on that question, from what I'm hearing from you, is it fair to say your approach is we don't expect them to be at the table, but we are doing everything we can to earn and show them that that they should be at the table because there's value?
Sure, right. I mean, I think it's fair. Our local corporates have been fantastic partners and have sponsored work we've done, but we are in no way going to be complacent about that, right? So, like in any business, right, you've got to earn it every day, right?
Yeah.
Don't ever take your partners and your customers and your valued stakeholders for granted, because
Yeah.
you'll lose them. So we're here to earn it.
I'm on this because I've had some conversations recently around this, and I'm just you seem to be having you seem to be doing a great job in bringing and weaving this all together. So, what advice do you have for other ecosystems that are building? Because I hear this a lot, like, it's a group of university and economic developers and NGOs sitting around the table, but the major economy isn't there. The major corporate players aren't there at the table. So I don't know what are your thoughts on that? What advice would you give somebody who's like listening to this today and saying like, oh man, we want to grow our region. We want to get players at the table.
Sure. So I would say this. Uh, be ready to do the hard work, right? Of course, the third time I've said it here, no hoping and waiting, right? So you've got to be involved every day in grabbing a shovel and digging, right? Making sure it works. But I would say also, every region is of a different size. So relieve yourself of trying to be on some sort of list, right, of top, right? And focus on, something you can achieve with the resources that you have. If that's doing 5% better year over year in your key metrics, or doing 10% better year over year in key metrics, if I'm starting, companies per year, can I start 3 to 5, right? If I'm creating 50 jobs a year, can I, create 55, right? And just methodically improve, and until you've got enough intentionality behind that, where you can reliably forecast, and you can say, all right, I grew 10% the last 2 years. I think I can grow 10% next year, and here's the math, right? And here's why I believe it, right? And that also then helps if you're, requesting or appealing for some additional dollars, right? You've got the backup evidence to say, I'm with what I have, I can do 10% year over year better. But if I had X dollars more, I could turn that into 15%, right? And
Yeah.
then deliver. Again, it's just like a business.
It's like a business. Yeah. Right. Yeah. A really, really good advice. Well, I guess another question. I know we're coming up with time, but like Activation Capital started with this real estate portfolio and this kind of roots in, how valuable has that been, in being able to kind of execute on that you had this, foundation of and history there and kind of, already trust with some of these organizations.
Sure. I mean, it's done two things. It's created, a successful fleet of buildings in the area here, right? And they're gorgeous, great place to do work. And it's moved some interesting partners into the area, right? So the notable list of companies in this part of town. But it's also allowed us as an organization to really be networked in what's going on. So we're known, so it's easy to ask for time, and have people listen to us and talk to us. And there's been open doors, everywhere we've gone, and everybody's been very interested in what we're doing. And the idea that we've shifted to programming with the intent of building out the startup footprint, and the biotech life sciences footprint here has been really well received. And I think it's something that, we'll keep very busy as an organization for years to come.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm trying to think about how I would summarize our talk today, Jim. I don't know if you have any thoughts. I think executing on the business of innovation kind of seems to come to mind. Like, I mean, it seems like you guys are executing on a business plan for growing Richmond very well. So, I mean,
Trying.
just
Yeah.
well, I mean, again, just in the conversation, it really
Yeah. Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
that way. So, um, and it honestly, like, we talk to a lot of groups all across the country as we're looking to expand BioBuzz as a hub-based partner, and not everyone's talking like Jim Pannucci. So I think I'm refreshed and really excited to hear how you've got a very clear plan, you're operationalizing it, and again, you're running it like a business and you're seeing great success. So congratulations on everything.
Thank you very much, Chris. And it's been great working together over the years, and I really appreciated this opportunity to tell our story.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll keep telling it. It sounds like there's more and more to tell with each passing cohort and each passing day. I mean,
Sure.
when's the can you anything you can want to share and kind of closing, and when's the next cohort kind of open for applications, or the next one
Uh,
graduating?
all to come, I would say, unfolding over the next couple of months. We'll be posting the boot camp opportunities and the pre-accelerate opportunities that we'll be recruiting around for. And I'm sure we'll make some big regional noise about trying to attract some attention there.
Good. Well, let us know if we can help.
Great.
Uh, where can people find out? Where should people follow you? Find out about what's going on?
Sure. You can follow Activation Capital on LinkedIn, and then check our website out for other news and events. And yeah, those are the big ones. I think we try to get out the word about what we're doing as best we can. The occasional press release where it merits that, but I think to our website and our LinkedIn channel, that's probably the best way to get us.
Great. Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time today, man. Always good to
Great.
see you.
Okay.
Hopefully
You too,
face to
Chris.
face again soon.
All right, my friend. Catch you later.
All right. Thank you much. Have a great day. Thank you all for
Bye.
listening, and enjoy the rest of your day today.